Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the third webinar in our series titled Leadership Conversations on COVID-19 and the Public Trust. Today's is on the future and future obligations of business schools in an era of uncertainty. And I'm glad to be joined by Mark White, CEO of Shape Corporation, Paul Doyle, the founder and CEO of Inclusive Performance Strategies, and Diana Lawson, who is the Dean of the Seidman College of Business here at Grand Valley State University. So welcome to all of you. Welcome to those of you who are listening. We're going to ask everybody to speak to a few questions, and then we'll save some time at the end for questions that you from the audience might have. Paul, I'm going to kick it right off to you. I don't want to ignore current events and the events, especially of the last 3 or 4 weeks. Political, social, racial unrest alongside with the pandemic and the problems we've got in the economy, et cetera. We've all seen statements both locally and nationally from businesses and from business schools, either reconfirming or renewing commitment to diversity and equity and inclusion. Some people are relatively new to it, other people, efforts have been ongoing. Keep the focus on business schools here. How are you reading the kinds of statements that are coming out from business schools, and what's the proper diversity, equity, and inclusion? Maybe keeping in mind that the top 25 business schools across the country enroll African Americans, for example.
All right. Well, I'll try to be. And first of all, thank you for having me before. So it's definitely an important one, and again, I appreciate participating. Your question, interacting with with new clients that have been asking us to come in and to engage them, and helping them in regards to how to shape or to communicate their statements and what's driving and why outside the obvious of what we can observe. With that said, we also ask if do you want just a statement or do you want an action statement? The financial commitment is having to position themselves as part of the solution to help facilitate change and help resolve the things that we're focusing on, whether that's systemic racism, and public the right firm. You're probably not putting yourself in the right position around where things are at today. To your other part of the question in regards to the business school, this opportunity to facilitate the change in our world, in the country. Everything that has happened in regards to the racial tension, even the racial disparities that were made transparent to the COVID, now we're going to proactively develop systems and frameworks and make necessary changes that can help us really finally move forward and address a lot of what we're experiencing.
Thanks, Paul. Mark, let me kick it to you.
Organizing this panel, and thank you for having me. Yeah, I think as far as Paul, I certainly appreciate your comments and your experience in this regard regarding the current social issues that we're dealing with. And I comment on that relative to how we've approached it within our company. Is we really started to go back to our core values and purpose of our company first and foremost, and came out with a communication, a statement on that, just reaffirming our core values and inclusion and diversity certainly plays a key central role in that. But we recognize we have a lot more to do, both inside our company, but also we so statements are important, but it's the actions that we're taking to listen and to be more aware, and to really have a pulse on the communities from people outside, people, community leaders, people of different ethnic backgrounds, etc. So we can gain more perspective and try to find ways that we can enhance diversity. And the question that I'm asking our company and our leadership team is, how can we make diversity and inclusion a competitive advantage for our company and for our community? And I think it's an important topic. It's now getting a lot of attention, but I think it needs to continue to be on the forefront of CEOs and leaders' agenda as they run their businesses. And I think all of that applies to business schools as well.
Thanks, Mark. Diana, what do you think we're doing on this, and what do we need to do more or less of, or as you listen to what Mark and others are saying about this?
I think business schools generally, whether it's us or the top schools, we are not doing well. And in reaching underserved markets, regardless of the type of diversity that is. And part of that, I think, is that higher education generally doesn't change very fast. And if you look at what we do today, generally in business schools as well as the rest of the university, looks pretty much the same as what we did 50 years ago. There are a few bells and whistles that have changed, and some of the delivery modes and different things like that, but not much has. And I think both Paul and Mark have said it very simply. We have to start with attitudes. And I think in business schools, in community, our attitudes are saying, yes, we do need to do something. This next step of that is that we have to have intentionality in how we do it and what we do. We have a lot of really good intentions, but what the faculty have students make that connection between the intention to change things and the behaviors we need to do that. It's missing. It's the gap that's missing. I think what Mark talks about with their advisory council, that advisory council will help to narrow that gap But it's not easy because we all tend to do what we know best and what we are most comfortable with. And for many people, this is a very uncomfortable path to follow.
And let me paraphrase a couple of student responses to this that might sound like a critique, but maybe they're more of an observation. And that is, well, look, I came to business school. The only color I want to focus on is green. You know, why does the rest of this matter to me? When what I really want to learn is how to increase shareholder value and put myself in the best position I can be in to increase my own wealth. How would any one of the three of you respond to that?
Go ahead, Paul.
And looking at that, you know, of course, the entrepreneurial, or it's me and I want to be successful. You know, that's a key part of the energy to move forward. Yeah. The fact is our world, you're not the only one living in it, and you're going to need everybody in it to be successful to reach your goals, whether you realize that or not. So your ability to be able to be inclusive, to be able to look and foster your plan or your growth through that inclusive growth lens is going to be key. You cannot do that in isolation. And if you think by having by not having diverse relationships or the ability to interact cross-cultural, you're not looking at this correctly at this point, because the world is changing and it's requiring, when it comes to really being an inclusive leader, the traits or competencies that are involved, and to Diana's point, the attitude, you need to be able to embrace that. So I question, that reminds me, I think I mentioned to you guys before, I think it's all JR's fault from Dallas, setting the attitude around business, and about meeting me and beating the other person. So anyway, that's my little commentary on that question.
Yeah, my input to that, I think about the question, is my role as a CEO to create maximum shareholder value, or is it to make the world a better place and to fulfill our purpose as a company? And for me, the answer is both. That we need to have a sustainable economic model so that the business continues to grow and thrive, and that provides the resources or the fuel that we need to reinvest in people, to reinvest in our business, to grow, and develop our people to do more in the community. So to me, they're not separate. They're absolutely linked, and I think that's the responsibility of companies today. That's my personal view. Not every company might view it that way, but I observe that today in the business world, even on a small level.
I agree with both Paul and Mark. I think students come in saying the only thing that they're interested in is finding a job that will give them a good salary. I think that's all they know. And I think part of our responsibility in higher education is to broaden their perspective and help them to understand what is around them. I will use my examples from anybody that look just like them. So when they go off to college, they are going to have a very narrow perspective. And it's our responsibility as educators to help broaden that perspective. And we don't have to go outside of West Michigan to do that. And it's to help instill that purpose beyond profit for them and for their responsibilities as they move into a career at some point. And the other side of that for companies is it's imperative that they embrace this. If we look at the demographic data of what's happening over the next 10 to 15 years and the drop in the number of high school graduates in the state of Michigan because the population has declined and because there are fewer kids going in high school, the largest drop is in whites. The second largest drop is in blacks. And the only increase is in Hispanic individuals in terms of the number of people coming out of high school. Now we look at COVID, and out of the Brookings Institute, they are looking, and they've looked at all the economic research, a 300 to 500,000 drop in birth rates, a drop in birth rates over the next 5 years, of 300 to 500,000 across the country. And that's because of the negative economic impact of this. We have to help young people understand the broad base of our population, and we have to help companies understand the need to integrate all.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I took some technical difficulties on my end. I'm back, caught up on the conversation. We can continue with that, or make it a little more broadly based. I'll go back and ask the question again from the perspective of all three of you. What else, perhaps besides this particular topic, are students not getting to business schools? Maybe Mark, I can start with you. What are they not getting that as somebody who employs them? We wish they were maybe getting more of it as schools, or we were emphasizing more of it, at least.
Yeah, I think the business schools do a good job using their model. Diana, you mentioned, it's a model that's been in place for a long time. Teaching technical skills, which is absolutely necessary, and to me that's almost a given. When I'm speaking from a company perspective, we can hire people who are good accountants and good technically, right? There are what I'll call the intangibles. It's bringing those technical skills, those professional technical skills, with other experiences, be it projects and problem solving is what we're looking for. The ability to collaborate with others. And we talked about diversity earlier, right? How important is that to be able to show experience and have experiences working and solving problems with diverse groups of people on a diverse set of issues and being able to show a path toward action, problem solving, solution, and bringing that type of an experience in to a company is extremely important, because that's how our work is done every day. It's team based, it's global, it's cross functional. So our business students who would come into our company would be working with engineers, they'd be working with purchasing professionals, they'd be working with test engineers. It's just a whole variety of folks. HR is involved. So being able to relate to other professional functions and being able to collaborate well in a team environment, in my mind is high on the list.
Thanks. Paul, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think what Mark is saying is brilliant. And then, K-12 in high schools, having that be nurtured at that point. And then when I even question when we're looking at kids applying, how we're even having our application process be able to ask those questions, look for that type of quality, those types of experiences that would be that would align with that. To be able to, like I said, there's that emotional intelligence side that needs to be enhanced also. The empathy, the ability to utilize an appreciative inquiry type of approach in your interaction, so that you're not unintentionally discounting another person because of their background or they're different from you and so forth. Again, these are qualities that we don't have the luxury of not taking for granted at this point. I think if you look around, when I look at some data around the business schools, top business schools around the world, and look at some of their curriculums, they're focusing on this, and they're focusing on it very strongly. As you know, I'm adjunct faculty at the Michigan State College of Human Medicine. We start off with an orientation day, full day, called diversity, equity, inclusion, and cultural competence to establish a baseline for learning throughout the whole first year for the first year of med students. This is something that, especially in healthcare, of course, when you're working, your product is working with other humans, it's just crucial. And I think I know it's transferring to the business world. I mean, yeah, it's pretty evident right now.
Can I ask a question about that, Diana, before I ask you to come back in? And that is just a point of maybe clarification. If you look at what you're saying as an instrumental set of skills that would help in terms of efficiency and function. Or Paul, I've heard you say directly to CEOs in town, for example, when they've asked you, or made a statement, something along the lines, well, we want to do the right thing. And you come back and say, well, it's more than doing the right thing. So it sounds like you're talking about a skill set, but it also sounds like you're talking about something that would take a much more intentional transformational effort. Am I right in interpreting you that way?
Yeah, I definitely. To get this to the point where, and how we even approach organizations is how do we integrate this into our way of being, okay? Our way of being, and where it becomes as natural as the air we breathe and the water we drink. This should not be something we pull out of the box when there's an issue, or something we look to when we're trying to figure something out. How do we get this almost like a natural part of our DNA? And I believe we can work towards that. It'll take a collaborative effort, because it'll have to coincide, as Mark would say, with the employers in corporate America, and also the business schools, and then also our pipeline from K through 12. I'm a former Board of Education president from Kent Public Schools, so I'm very familiar with the K through 12 structure, and also understand, Kentwood now being the largest and the most diverse school system in the state of Michigan, with over 63 different languages being spoken into it. You could see that the richness that comes from that diversity, and the learning structure that pulls that out.
Diana, do you think that's just asking too much of business schools, though, in 2 years, to provide those kinds of hardline, technical skills, and also get to this way of being as well? Is it unfair to us?
I think the term you use, transformational, is the appropriate term. And I would think of transformation on a continuum. Do I think that business schools can do it all? No, we can't. And it has to start before students get to a business school, from the time they walk into the university. But that really is the goal and purpose of higher education, to transform high school students into adults that can think and interact and problem solve. The skills are important for them to be able to move forward in the transformational experiences. They're actually applying the technical skills they're learning through projects. And so they're starting to think, and then exposing students intentionally to work on projects in teams with people from diverse backgrounds is the next step of the transformation. And as they move out into their careers, companies have to continue this. Somebody who walks into a company at 22 years old is not ready for everything. It takes years of experience and development to move them to development. And it's not that they don't want to, it's that they don't know how. And that really is the key of our responsibility.
I'm sorry. Well, I was thinking about that with you. I don't want to cut you off from anything else you wanted to add to that, but I do want to raise an observation that I hear from students sometimes, and this kind of lofty rhetoric that comes from us, that comes from employers, is not something they necessarily hear when they just go out to get their foot in the door. But when it comes to recruiting, what they oftentimes hear is, well, we're looking for somebody with these very hard skills and has a 3.5 GPA, and quite frankly, nobody ever asks them a thing about their purpose or what they want to achieve or their social conscience or any of that. So, can I ask you to address that piece of it as well?
Yeah, certainly. Diane, I was going to just comment on some of the things that you were mentioning. I think you and I were having a conversation about the technical skills versus, say, the leadership, the ethics and decision making and such. And I think about them where we have technical skills and life skills, right? And I think you even said they're not soft skills, they're life skills. Well, life skills are developed throughout your lifetime. All of us are still growing, learning every day about leadership, about how we make better decisions, and how we take social issues into context when we're making business decisions. You say it's a continuum, and I agree completely that what we try to promote is that we have to continuously learn throughout our career. So in my opinion, business schools need to incorporate those life skills into curriculum, and the companies need to continue with that. It's just an ongoing continuum. So leadership skills. I remember coming out of undergraduate business school and going into a large Fortune 500 company, and I didn't know when they talked about leadership. I'm thinking, well, that's the boss, and he's telling the team what to do. I didn't have a good perspective on what does leadership mean. And so in our company, we recognize that also as an issue, and we needed to define for our company and for our team members, what does leadership really mean? What are the characteristics of great leadership inside of our company? And so we've put a leadership model together where we're training now on those components of what our view is of great leadership. And I think that's something that would be awesome if it could be incorporated, those types of trainings and teachings inside of the business schools. And maybe in partnership with businesses that could come in, maybe through lecture series, having students visit, benchmarking, because we have to model that behavior, right? We have to show here's how that's applied in practice. So I'm just reinforcing the fact that I think it should be incorporated into the business schools along with the technical skills.
And Diana, are there, and well, all three of you, are there particularly good models of this right now? Are there places that are doing this in ways that, however well we're doing internally, where you look outside and you say, yeah, that's a good model for us to aspire to. That would be something that if we could get to where they are, that is incorporating a lot of what you've said so far.
I think there are a few schools that are trying to really integrate, and it's not necessarily just leadership. They're trying to integrate the whole aspect of the triple bottom line, and so people are always one of the main components in decision making. And they have built some actions where instead of expecting everybody to come to them, they go to where the need is, whether it's working with a community organization and offering courses at that location instead of forcing everyone to come to a very uncomfortable, unfamiliar campus that is pretty traditional. And they've had some success at it with it.
Thanks. Paul, in your space, are you seeing people who are becoming exemplars for what you think companies or business schools should aspire to?
Yes, even locally or regionally, engaging the different organizations. You look at CEOs or leadership or Cascade Engineering with Fred Keller, even what Tina Fries is doing, trying, to move forward at Spectrum Health, those large organizations. In regards to mid-size or smaller organizations or companies, I'm on the board of Roman Manufacturing under the CEO of Bob Roth, who's, had brought me in to be part of this board intentionally to enhance diversity. He has a very diverse board and understands, the influence of culture on the performance of an organization and ability to recruit and retain and talent. And, back to the key word in the beginning, it takes that intentional effort to do that. I was brought into a seat that was vacant from the founder of the company and his father to be on this board. Not a lot of companies would think about, doing something like that. So I say we have potential models, but I think they all will present themselves as not the all in all, and that they all have room to grow and more to grow. And the bottom line is, anytime any of us think we're there, we're not there, because this is a continuous journey and the landscape is changing so fast. So what's going to be required is the commitment for continued growth and continued learning more than anything else, and being open to that. So
should we take our cues in terms of how we should develop the curriculum or orient ourselves going forward based largely on various challenges that climate change is going to present, based on challenges that diversity and equity, inclusion you're going to present? I mean, maybe especially to you, Paul, and to Mark. I mean, how should we take our cues, or should we stand on principle? Let's just get people as good as possible and go.
I think, to that question, when you look around and you see whether it's the protests or what we're observing around the landscape of our country and around the world, the younger generation understands that they have the opportunity, but also the responsibility to foster change. Now, do they know how to do all of that from a system and organizational standpoint? Probably not. That's where the role of what we're all talking about, trying to provide that learning structure for them to enhance and equip them. But they know that if they want a planet, if they want a safe and a quality of life for themselves and the generations behind them, they're expanding their social conscience and responsibility as part of their agenda. And I think that's the opportunity we have. How do we establish structure shift or transform itself to be able to leverage and capitalize and harness that energy for the betterment of all of us from that standpoint? I'm interested in Mark's perspective on that too.
Yeah, maybe that's what we continuously work on our behaviors and actions so that it's felt by everyone in the company. And I would ask the business school students who are developing their views, when they talk to companies, they should ask the companies, what is your purpose for your business? Not what do you do, not what products. You get all that on the website, but I would be asking the companies, tell me about why you do what you do. What's your company all about?
Yeah.
What's the purpose behind it all? And I think they'll reveal then much more.
At the table, looking at a conversation with these students, and to a person, they said the life of them could not see the connection between their general education and what they were now doing in business. At least that's a small sample, but you know that's out there. Do we need to reach out more? Does the rest of the university need to change its mind about this? What do you think about that?
So I think the student answered the question that you just asked. There is very little connection between what our students do in the first couple of years in what we call middle education or general education and what we do in the college business. There's no intentional connection in hierarchy of learning between what the foundational courses that really help students learn how to develop frameworks for thinking. That's what liberal arts is supposed to do. It's supposed to broaden your mind and help people who are taking those courses to learn how to think and build the frameworks and the structures and the connections and how to ask questions. And then that moves on up into the professional schools. And when we're talking about business, but it goes along with engineering, with education, with the health professions for all of us. The general education should be the foundation for students to build those types of life skills. They're building the beginning components of that lifelong learning of how to be a good, productive, contributing thinker in solving the world's problems, whether they're big or small. And I think we as a university could do a better job of intentionally trying to connect where we have the foundational knowledge and we apply it in a more business context. In all honesty, we have been trying to do this for a few years, and it is extremely slow and extremely difficult because of whatever reason on both sides of people who have not learned how to work together or been open and welcoming to working together and thinking differently about how they create the curriculum for the students. I think, and one other thing with business schools, if you look at the history of business schools, they all started as graduate schools. There were not undergraduate business programs 100 years ago or 70 years ago. Well, 70 years ago, there probably were, about when it started. But really, business programs started as MBAs. So people who had skills like engineering and they had to start managing people, they came to business schools to learn how to manage people and understand all the functions of the business. We need to continue trying to make those connections if we want to help our students become better leaders, better contributors to society and to their companies.
Thanks. Maybe picking up on that point, Paul and Mark, you both referenced Cascade Engineering, and Fred Keller, he was on our second webinar. I've known Fred for a long time. One of his points is that, business, capital B business, has supplanted other institutions, maybe especially government, in terms of its ability to solve these quote-unquote wicked societal problems. That it's business that has the tools, and business now that has responsibility and obligations. Would you agree with that? That there really is something more than profit motive or profit taking at this point? The business has grown so large and it's so popular. Our business college does not suffer from lack of enrollment. Most of them don't. That there is, because of its growing power, that it also has a growing responsibility to take on roles that otherwise or historically were fulfilled by other institutions.
So, Michael, the question is the role of business in solving maybe some societal larger issues versus government. Yeah,
Fred's pretty adamant about that, right? Yeah. I'm curious if you think he's on the right track.
I do. In fact, I had a really great experience and spent some time with Christina Keller and her team not long ago with a few of my executives. We were doing some benchmarking. I think they're a fantastic local example of a company with a broader purpose. To help people, but to help community and society. And I do feel in my role within our company, I look at the impact that we can have and the resources that we have inside of our company to work on other issues. So, you know, for example, another great organization, Talent 2025, is working on some fantastic initiatives to make our region competitive from a learning and development standpoint, going all the way into pre-K, and they're making an impact. But that is led by business leaders, and you know, my experience is that business leaders have a propensity for action. They know how to organize people, and they know how to get results. And I think the collaboration between business and government is absolutely necessary for us to tackle some of these big issues and to make a difference in the community. You know, and when you talk with folks like Cascade, they understand that a stronger community also leaves a better foundation for the company. It's all. And I guess
to have and we've done work with Talent 2025 to continue to have the business sector increase its influence on community change. I think is essential, and I say it for a couple of different things. One is the people they employ, the human capital, the people of the community they employ are with them a lot of the majority of their time. They look to that organization. It influences their perspectives, and it can influence how they see community. And a lot of the times they want to know what's important to their company, to their organization. If that organization can present this agenda and what's important as it pertains to community, inclusive growth for community, minority groups, African Americans, people of color, when their high flyers or their people leave the organization, it's not because of the money. And you know, it's because of the opportunity, it's because of the culture, it's because of the belonging, and that's what they're looking for. And they would happily go to make less money with more opportunity and growth and more belonging than stay in an organization that will just keep paying them a high salary. In other words, they don't want to be a house person.
Right. Our data supports that 100%, Paul.
Yeah. So it's really, it's important for us to understand that connection.
Thank you to all of you. We're coming down to our time. Diana is the dean. Want to have the last word on any of this?
Underserved populations, people of color, it's even worse. And so we're finding that many times they can get in the door, but they get stalled and they don't progress. And this is what I'm hearing Paul talking about, what Mark's talking about, that we have to be intentional in making sure that our promotion processes, our performance policies, everything we do in our organizations to continue to promote development of underserved populations is extremely important. And that's where our own independent biases, we have our own biases. We're all systems one thinkers that we want to just do what we've always done and not be intentional. This is where our intentionality really has to be placed. It's not what I do in higher ed. We have to start it there, but the companies have to continue to support it.
Again, thank you to all three of you on a respective